The bait of the day, vintage Rebel Deep Weir. This is an awesome crankbait. Caught a lot of fish. Won the Bassmasters Classic thanks to Paul Elias. This is one of the baits we're going to be talking about today. But the star of the show is a Plano 757. This is my doll baby from around 85, 86. This is the best one I have in my collection. This is cherry. And it still has 4-drawer system. They just don't make them like this anymore. Very simple box. Did you pack one of these for a whole entire year? I don't know. We're going to find out. Are you ready to run and gun? It's time for blast off. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome back to Bassin 101. Todd here with you, where we try to make things simple for everybody to understand. Now, today's episode is going to be based off Bassmaster magazine. This is November of '86, and the article that we have today that I promised you I would do is Larry Nixon's How to Stock a Tackle Box. And look at there. There's a 757 sitting there. Does that box work? Well, back when I was fishing tournaments, and especially going out of town, I used to keep tubs and tubs of lures in the back of my truck. And I get to the hotel room, and I would take a blue and silver, because it matched my truck. Blue and silver 757, pack that for the day for practice. And come back to the hotel room at the end of that day, I'd stock it for the very next day, and I would use that box in the tournament. I wouldn't have a bunch of stuff laying across the boat. I wouldn't have a bunch of stuff laying in the back of somebody else's boat if I was a co-fisherman. None of that stuff. Simple 757, carried everything I needed for that day. If I needed something else, I went home with an empty pocket. That's just the way fishing works. But in this article, he talks about having a garage full of lures. And he can go in the tackle business himself if he wanted to. I remember back in 2004, I went to a seminar in which Larry was one of the main speakers on a Saturday. And of course, as usual, everybody had their pride jackets on, everybody had their club jackets on, everything, thinking they were better than him. And then once lunchtime hit and he was all said and done, it was just me and him by ourselves in that room. And I got to spend quite a bit of time with old Larry. Really cool guy, really knowledgeable, and doesn't mind telling you the way things are. He doesn't sugarcoat nothing. He doesn't, he's not going to BS you about something. That's what I love about Larry. He's a very honest guy, but he was very knowledgeable. Me and him discussed BASS versus FLW, and because I wasn't happy with BASS at the time either. And we were just kind of going back and forth with things. But to make a long story short, I was very young in that picture anyway. That was almost 20 years ago. But in all seriousness, the whole entire article is basically simplifying things and what he would do if he had to stack a tackle box. And he's very simple in how he goes about the thing. Now remember, this is about 35 years ago, but a lot of the baits are still around. They're discontinued on others. So you might have to check eBay, you might check whatever. I mean, if you want to try to put together the same kind of box that he's got. I've got most of the lures. I've got some laid out here. I was going to, help describe the sizes of them. You can see them in person and everything else what he's got going on. Colors don't exactly match, but I do pretty much have all the colors he's got in the article anyway. But just kind of want to go over this a little bit. This might be a little lengthy. I'm going to try to keep it short best I can, just try to make it simplified for you, and we'll see where we can go from here. Now, in this picture right here, you'll see he's got the top compartment open, and what he keeps in this compartment, you see there's a spare reel there, and there's some other stuff sitting in there. And this compartment's pretty roomy. for the size of the box that it is. Now what he keeps in this thing, he keeps like spinner baits, buzz baits, jigs, worms, pliers, other accessories, hooks, sinkers, just the typical stuff that doesn't really readily fit into the trays in mass quantities. So if he wants to keep like a handful of each of everything going on, that compartment's the best way to do it. He keeps it simple with spinner baits. He keeps a 1/4 ounce with a willow blade. He keeps a 1/2 ounce with a number 3 Colorado and a number 5 willow, which is probably his bulldog bait, the one he uses more than anything else, and a 3/4 ounce with a number 8 Colorado that he uses for muddy water. And if you've got his spring tactics for a tournament season bass video or DVD, at the very end of that video, when he's pitching around those trees, that's what he's throwing is that spinner bait, the 3/4 ounce number 8 blade. So if you have that video, you have access to that video to catch that, because he catches probably the biggest fish on the video on that cut right there. And that's the last cast of the day. Now, the other baits he has up in there, again, jigs. And he was a Stanley guy back in the day, so he carries 3/16, 5/16, and half. That was kind of a staple back in the day. And he varied his colors: clear, semi-clear, and muddy. Now for muddy water, he picked black and chartreuse. For semi-clear, black and blue, and then black and brown, black and orange for clear. Kept Hale's crawl worms and number 11 pork chunks. Simple. So we can go from plastic to pork, either way you want to go, and Uncle Josh is back up with pork. If you didn't know that. As far as plastic worms, huge Ditto Gator Tail guy. I mean, he won the 83 Classic on a Ditto Gator Tail. So that's what he threw for quite a while through the 80s and early 90s, as he threw Gator Tails. So he's got a whole assortment of those in there. Don't look those up; they're gone. They're long gone. I got my supply, and they ain't going nowhere. Sorry, I just kind of beat you to the punch, I guess. The trays that he has are actually kind of interesting the way he has them lined up. The first tray he has is he devotes that to topwater. Now the very first one he has is the Head and Zaraspook. Now this is for clear water. That's what he's got it for, clear water. He keeps these in shad and perch. It's only 2 colors he needs in that thing. The other one he's got in there, if you look at it, he's got a couple of different trays of it. He's got prop baits. Now he's got devil horses in there. He's got some boy howdies in there. Again, shad, perch colors. He uses these for stop and go aggravation lures, and really these baits are kind of best for shallower water. They're not really a deep water bait. You could if they were suspended, but this is pretty much a shallow water bait for aggravation only, and I agree with that. That does work very well. The other one is the old standby Rebel Popar, the standard 2-inch Rebel Popar. Of course, mine's got a feather haggle on the back. I can't stand that bucktail. He's got these in chrome and bone, which is a good combination. You got your shiny, and then you got your solids. So that's a pretty good way of doing that, the way he's got that arranged. And another one he's got a 4.5 and a 5.5 inch Rebel Minnow. He's got these in chrome and gold. He considers gold to be perch. I can understand that. But these are the two he's got. These are some of my babies right here. These are from the very early 70s with the old Confederate flag boxes. These ain't going anywhere. But these are what he's talking about. See the difference in the sizes? And that's why he throws them in those 2 different sizes. And the other one, which I just didn't dig out, are tail spinners. The old Man's George, other types of tail spinners they had back in the day. He had spin rights from Uncle Josh. There's other ones they had, but he uses that around fallen timber, or if you got timber lines or something like that. It's not with the topwater selection, but just happen to have a compartment there for it, and that's why he put it there. But it's simplified. That's a very simple system right there on the top drawer. It pretty much covers all your bases, because when you have muddy water, you're not really going through topwater. So that's just, I'm sure some people do. And if you catch them, you're doing better than I am. But basically, it's not a muddy water tactic. Now we get to the second drawer, and he's devoted this drawer completely to crankbaits in the 4 to 12 foot range. Now, you'll notice the deep divers he's got in there is number 9 shad wraps. He's got Bagley B3 and the Deep We Are. oh, not deep we are, the deep maxi R. 3 baits, 3 completely different actions. One of them rattles. I'm not sure if the Bagley Heat had rattled or not. They did make some back in the day. But more towards the late 80s is when the rattles really come out. So I would say probably his didn't rattle. But 3 completely different actions that they have in this stuff. This actually has a wider wobble than this. So, and of course the shad wrap, we all know about shad wrap. Everybody knows what shad wraps do. So number 9 shad wrap, this and this, gets in the 10 to 12 foot zone. And that's what he's going for with that. So it's actually quite ingenious right there. Okay, so for the 8 to 12 footers, he's got a Bomber 7A, which is this right here. And he's also got a deep mini R, which that hits about 8 foot, something like that as well. It's a pretty heavy bait, about 5/8 of an ounce. And what he keeps these in, of course, is shad and crawfish. And the Bomber 7A and a crawfish pattern, it's just an all-around really good crankbait. It's caught tons of fish for 30 years, 40 years actually. And that 7A pattern right there, especially dark green crawfish, color tip. Now, after he's done that, he's going to go to the 4 to 7 foot divers. And this is where color is going to get a little bit more into play, for the simple fact it's shallower water. You got more light penetration, so we're going to add one extra color to it, and that's chartreuse. So we have shad, crawfish, and chartreuse. And what he's got is a Bagley B2 and a Rebel VR. Now, again, one rattles, one doesn't. But this has a wider wobble than the Rebel VR. And that's really what he's going for. He's going for wobble, not so much sound, because this is rattles, this is split rings and hooks. And you think they don't rattle? I hate to tell you, they do. All silent crankbaits have a rattle in them. Split rings and hooks. You hear it right there. So that contains the second tray box. It's just all crankbaits. Now the third box, he devotes that to the shallower crankbaits. Now, if you look at the picture, now your colors are a whole lot more varied, especially in one particular type of lure, which is a lipless crankbait. He's got spots in that picture, rattle traps, storm Texas shads. He's got a few little things in there going on, and he keeps those in shad, orange, chartreuse, and crawfish, because in a lipless crankbait, your color selection is a little bit more varied. You can still keep it simple, and that's a very simple setup. It's almost seasonal the way he's got it set up. Chartreuse, you're thinking, well, you're not going to throw a rattle trap in chartreuse in muddy water. Well, not really, no. I mean, some people don't. But the chartreuse is not really for muddy water. You can use that in clear water. I've got them in chartreuse in clear water, especially smallmouth. So keep that in mind. Now he goes to a little bit more the alphabet style. He goes to a Bomber 2A, which I don't have on me right now. But he also has a WeAR. And it's just a shallow WeAR. They run about 3 to 4 feet deep. And that's what he's going with. He's going for that shallow water from 2 to 4 feet. And that's what he's going with right there. Bomber 2A runs about 2 to 3 feet deep. So that's the area, and he carries these in chartreuse, crawfish, and shad. He's even got a chrome in there too, so it's a little bit more light penetration. Also, you'll see there's a Dance's eel. This is when they first come out, and marabou jig, which he uses for light line techniques. And he's won a lot of money on those marabou jigs back in those days. But the Dance's eel he uses for vegetation, grass, things like that. And then you've got the last tray. Now the last tray, again, you'll see there's crankbaits in there, and they run from the 4 to 7 foot depth range. We have a Mini R, which this is mine from the 70s, brand new out of the box. Rebel Mini R, and this sucker runs about 6 feet deep. Let's see, on 10, 12 pound test. You can also throw it back into stuff as well. And then of course, he's got some deep WeARs in there as well. So, and again, color-wise, he's actually adding a little bit more to this, because he's just trying to cover some more ground with some different type of lures. This has the Mini R has more wobble than, of course, the WeAR, and he keeps these in like a red, a chartreuse, a crawl, and a shad. Notice the repetitive in the colors. And then you have for vegetation and lily pads, he has a Floyd buzzer, which is an old inline bucktail buzzer. He's got a snagless Sally. He keeps weedless spoons and frogs. That's pretty simple, and that covers a whole different ground. But I want you to think about something. I'm going to post all 4 pictures right here. I want you to look at the crankbaits. Do you see a pattern from the first box down to the last box? Do you see any kind of a pattern going on here? If you don't, I'll tell you. If you're looking at the deep crankbaits in that whole entire box, everything's shad. Deep water, there's not much light penetration. He's focusing on shad because 9 times out of 10, that particular box right there is summertime fishing. Late spring, early fall, summertime, that's what that's for, and it's shad. And only does he get in the shallower as he go to a chartreuse. So you catch that. When it comes to the deeper runners, 8, 10, 12 foot deep, now we're talking shad. That seems to be the most consistent thing. So I just wanted to see if you happen to catch that a little bit. As far as the shallower runners, as it goes shallow with everything, the colors get more varied, light penetration. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you're really trying to simplify things and you're trying to put things together, that's really a good way of doing it. And I tell you what, I have worn my first copy out really bad. I was thankful I could find one on eBay to replace it because I've read the crap out of that book. That one particular issue, it's got a lot of really good articles in it. And I'm the kind of guy that likes to kind of go back to square one, get things simple again. If I tend to venture out a little bit too far, which I do a lot. That's why I'm trying to bring this to you guys, so you can probably catch on a little bit as well too, to help you guys out some, because I know a lot of you guys out there just scratch your head every day. I don't know what to throw. Well, you're in the same boat as the rest of us. You end up with too much stuff. And there's tried true lures over the years, and you can do what you can do. I mean, there's a batch of baits right there. Is that simple? It can be. I have no problem throwing these baits the rest of the year. I can do it. The thing is, could you? So that stock's a simple box. And I'm sorry that these aren't available anymore, but you can get them on eBay if you kind of want to go retro with it and you want to stock one of these boxes. You can definitely find them on eBay. Some want too much money, and some are a really good deal. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you hit the like and subscribe, hit the bell notification. Shout out to my brother Chris at Retro Bassin. You the man. Thanks, buddy, for everything you do. And I hope we can still keep hitting back and forth, man, because that's just too much fun. It really is. It's way too much fun. So if you're new to the channel, welcome, guys. I'm glad you're here. I hope that some of this information can help you out a little bit. If you check my other videos out back, I'm a pretty open-minded guy. I'm just trying to give you information to help you out a little bit, because I've screwed up myself too, and I've gotten too much stuff over the years or whatever. And eventually you just have to start from scratch. And I'm doing that with rods, reels, all kinds of stuff, and that's going to be a later deal down the road as well too. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and again, dedicating this video to my boy Larry Nixon. Thank you for everything you taught me over the years, reading articles and what you taught me in person and everything else. You're the man. I'm so thankful for getting a chance to meet you and all that a long time ago. But that was definitely an influence on how I thought about things and how I kind of put things together. But I'm a slow learner, so it just took me a little while to kind of do all this kind of stuff. So again, hope you enjoyed today's episode. Sorry it was so long, but I kind of wanted to get this out a little bit because it is a pretty good article, and I want to make sure everybody can get this stuff understood pretty good. So again, until next time, keep your lines tight. May the Father bless you and keep you in Yeshua's name, and we will see you again soon. Fish on.